Morning, everybody. We're just going to take 1 or 2 more moments before we start the webinar today. Right. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to join here. Hello. Welcome to our webinar, another one of our webinars in our series for September. We're going to start now. We're a minute over, so hopefully it'll give the people who haven't joined yet just a couple more minutes to join, but we do need to start quite promptly as we have a bit of a filter-busting conversation happening with our guests today, and we don't want to go too over time. Before we start, just to let you know, this webinar is being recorded. This is because we want to make it available on our website shortly after the session. Right, so the theme of today's webinar is obviously all about how Platform Housing Group's Enterprise Portfolio Management Office was successful in its goal to achieve standardised project and programme delivery processes. Platform Housing Group is one of the largest housing associations covering the Midlands, Warwickshire and Worcestershire. And I am delighted to welcome our guest today, Janice, Platform's Enterprise PMO Manager. Janice is going to be firstly delivering a short presentation. We're going to follow that by an interview between us both, and then we're going to wrap up at the end of this webinar with a Q&A, which we'd encourage you all to get involved with. So with that, let's dive in. I'll get Janice on, and welcome to you, Janice. It's lovely to have you, and I'll hand over to you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Laura. Hi, everyone. So I'm Janice Bioggi, and I'm Enterprise PMO Manager here at Platform. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with everyone today. I thought I'll put a few slides together just to give a little bit of context around Platform Housing Group, who we are, and a little bit of our journey. So next slide, please. Okay, so Platform Housing Group has around 50,000 homes and about 2,000 colleagues. So we are a varied organisation. We offer various services, as you can see here on the screen. We operate as an enterprise solution function sitting on the Information Directorate, and we have a team of around 22 members. We have the PMO function, project managers, business analysts, business architecture also sits within our function, and we also have a product team. As the Information Directorate, we don't only get project requests, but we also get service desk requests, continuous improvement, BAU, from across the business. So as you can see, we are a large organisation, and we do have a large internal customer base who are our stakeholders. So I'm hoping it will give you a little bit of insight into the type of work or the volume of work that can often come in. Next slide. So I was really excited to put this slide together because this tells a journey of where we started and where we currently are. And when I was thinking about putting this slide, I wanted, the first picture that I wanted to illustrate is I wanted a messy desk full of paper and a help sign, and I found it. So I was really happy about that because that was a great depiction of where we were. Imagine looking for really important documents, requests coming in, and you're having to scrum through everything to try and get that piece of information. And that's where that was the state of our PMO. And we had lack of standardization, inconsistent delivery. We had limited visibility of progress and risk at portfolio level. So there were challenges with scaling change. There was no request and approval process of when projects was being approved. So we knew that we needed change. We knew that we needed to do something. We also had quite a significantly sized implementation that was running behind schedule. And what we were seeing, a consistent trend, was a RAG rating status. So what was the solution? What was the first thing that we did is we engaged with our senior leadership team, and we said, you know, what could our IT PMO, which is what we were at the time, what could we do to help the organization? So we launched a Microsoft form survey, and that gave us a really clear indication around what was the best approach or what was the best thing to do. It gave us a clear steer around templates and also project prioritization. So we knew where to start because we had asked and we had engaged with our leaders. So we gathered the thoughts and the feedback. And from the information that we received, we knew that we wanted visibility of all the projects that we had. And I would say we probably had around 100 projects in flight. We knew that we wanted to know the RAG status. And what we also did is we put regular checkpoint meetings, and we implemented highlight reports and got them distributed. And that started to inform our stakeholders and our leadership team. And from that, we started to move into 2022. But in that journey, we had to go through that acceptance and accept what that was going to be like. Imagine opening a can of worms, as they say, or starting right at the foundation. It isn't always the best place to be. But it meant that in 2022, we started to see some small wins. We saw how standard raised confidence with our leadership team. We saw how consistency in reporting enabled better decision making. We had clear roles and responsibilities. Our framework was repeatable, so we started to see success from there. And our executives said, you know, we love what you did with the PMO. We want an enterprise version of that. And so we started to scale a little bit. In February 2022, we went from PMO to ePMO, and we started to talk to our executive leadership team about creating what we call a core change program, and that shapes our major governance currently. And that was very much about having a strategic application approach. And we had various different projects, really key projects running within the same timeline. What we did see, I did start to put some engagement score there. We talk a little bit about engagement later, but we did see a dip in our engagement score. We'll talk a bit about that later. And then we moved into 2023, where we started to see more wins. As you can see, from 2021 all the way to 2023, it was a journey. And, you know, we went from that kind of forming state. We went from that storming phase, and then I think we started to see a little bit of stability. We knew that we needed a tool, so we signed our PPM tool contract with Verto. We didn't go live until March 2024, and we did see a massive increase in our engagement score. It went to 86%. Now in 2024, when we did implement, that's when we implemented the tool. We did have two major long-running projects that impacted our scores, but you know, we still progressed, and we started to see enterprise level governance. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide, and then we can deep dive into the conversation. So here is just a little bit of our wins, really, and just some of the things that, some of the lessons, some of the key lessons that we had, as you can see here on the screen. I won't go through everything. What we did really well, we had project governance, we had team collaboration and culture. We started to see a shift in that. And we had, you know, dedicated project resources. And one of the key things that I put in here is one of the frameworks that we currently use at Platform, this circle of responsibility. And within that main circle, it's what I can control and what I can do. And I think that's a really important mindset to have. And that really helped us to navigate through the change that we was going through. If I can't control it, let me just leave it. If I'm unable to influence, let me just focus on what I can do and what I can control. So that's just a little bit about platform and our journey. And we'll deep dive further once Laura comes back, and hopefully it'll give you a bit of context.
That was great. Yeah, thank you for that, Janice. That was really good background. It was lovely to see how the engagement has improved, showing that your processes really are connecting the way that you deliver programs, products across the teams. So we have spoken a lot about this in our promotional posts for this webinar, but you've certainly gone from sort of chaos to calm, it sounds like.
Yes.
And it's very obvious what your challenges were and what you needed to fix, better visibility and everything. And it's also now easy, thank you for sort of sharing what the outcomes have been since you started doing this, and now that you're at a much better place. So obviously the rising engagement scores is a great data point there. So for other housing associations, people who might well be on this call, who might be, in the early stages of formalising a PMO, or maybe they've got an existing PMO, but maybe they recognise that there are some inconsistencies in the way that they deliver programmes of work or manage change internally. What advice would you give to them? Where do they start?
Yeah, no, really great question. One of the key things that I've learned, I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with the Cynefin framework, but it's really important. And what it explains is that it just explains the different domain and environments that which your business or your team is in, and that's really important. And it breaks it down into 4 different domains. So you've got simple, complex, complicated, and chaotic. And identifying which domain or which environment your team or business sits, it really helps define the approach. Because I think sometimes we can go in with our own ways or think this is the way it should be, but you first need to identify, where is my team, where's the business, what state are they in at the moment, what's the state of the environment, because different environment will require different approaches. So I would say know your team or know your environment or the business environment, and then determine the approach, because that's going to be the best way forward.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that we've come across a few models like this, and actually we're rolling out right now our own maturity model, which sounds to me like something very similar to the one that you have used. It's a way of identifying as a team, where are we now? Where do we want to be? And it's it's a really fantastic way of helping you develop goals, and identifying exactly where you want to be, so that again when you've achieved it as well, when you've actually hit that goal.
Yeah, exactly. And just to add as well, I think one of the key things that we did and do try and do even more is that engagement piece, engaging with the stakeholders. What we first said was, what can we do to help, not what we think we should do for you. And that's really important, because our stakeholders are our customers, and in order to provide a solution, you need to understand the need. So, unless yes, there's understanding the environment, but also get into the details of it, break it down, speak to your stakeholders and understand, because that's the best way you're going to know what to provide.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I absolutely agree. So moving on to the next sort of set of questions, product innovation, we've labelled this one. As part of the standardisation process that you went through, you at one point identified a specific need for capacity planning, for improving your capacity planning. And this was where you sort of realised that the Verto option available didn't quite fit your requirements at the time. Now, I know where possible, we always want our tools to match our clients' existing processes, especially if they already work, if they're already in place, people are already using them, rather than trying to flex to, you know, your system, your processes to match an inflexible program or platform. That's not what we want. And this is sort of what happened here. So you came to us and said, it would be great if your resourcing module could do this or look like this. So
Yeah.
that really shaped and led platform in this active role in shaping the latest Verto resourcing module. So could you tell us what were your needs at that time, which ultimately shaped our resourcing tool?
Yeah, I think again, it's keeping it very simple. I think we've started to learn the importance of simplicity. And one of the key things that we started to see in a trend, and that was really driven from our engagement scores, was just the capacity, and we was doing too much, and there wasn't enough resources. And so what we just needed from the tool was just to give that visibility, to start to give us that data so that we can start to demonstrate and support, you know, those engagement scores. So we just wanted to be able to pull into the tool who's working on what, how many hours that they're doing, so we can start to see a red, amber, and green, you know, because this was what we was, you know, known, and this is what is easy visually as well to see and have that heat map just to tell us, you know, actually this person is over allocated, you know, this person's under resourced. So we just wanted that visibility. Again, we just wanted to show actually these are our resources, this is the volume of work that we're doing, and this is the information, and we didn't have a way to do that.
Yeah. And in terms of the resourcing, it was primarily for people resource that you were wanting this for, right? And how important was it for you to have something fundamentally correct for resourcing? Because of course, you know, it impacts people, and it impacts, you know, their livelihood, their career, you know how they work every day. So how important was that to pull in as part of this change that you were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, it's a massive culture change and a shift actually, you know, for platforms. So that people impact was really important. And so it wasn't just about having the tool, but actually the change management aspect is we are taking the organization on a change journey. You know, we're now saying we're going to start to see what you're doing. You know, we're going to start to see the volume of your work, especially for a company that's, you know, we're very flexible. The company is very flexible. And so it's that people impact that had to be a driver in shaping our requirements, and also not just in implementing the tool, but how we was going to embed the tool as well. And that module was really important.
Yeah. I think resourcing is such a big topic for people right now, for organisations, and I think it's probably, as a result of many things coming back into the office or not, and just making people feel like they are, seen and understood in terms of their, abilities, capabilities. And time, people just, the burnout is a real thing, isn't it? On the flip side, resourcing also needs to be in a good place in terms of not being portrayed as something that people are being checked up on. It's not that either, So yeah, I think fundamentally getting that balance right is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how did these needs or ideas for this resourcing module and how it should look in Verto, how it should be, how it should operate, how did those come about internally? So how do you sort of communicate with your wider organization? How did you do it? Because obviously you were going to ask some people for their ideas on a fit for purpose resourcing tool. So that would have been quite specific needs, and then obviously you would have had to in light of your standardization and getting everything aligned, all of those processes consistent, you would then need to roll this out to all of your project teams. You mentioned over 100 projects, um, and so that it suited everybody. So how does that work?
Yeah, I think ultimately with change, you're never really going to please everybody, or, there's always going to be something that's going to be like, oh, maybe this isn't the right thing or this isn't the right thing. And with implementing Verto in general, I think we've always used a soft land approach. We've always done it incrementally, and just, in smaller chunks, because we are considering the change impact, the people impact. And so that engagement and that co-creation and collaboration has been really key in shaping those requirements, getting the feedback and having those feedback loops, and just testing has been really, really key, and making sure that it is the right thing. We are still on that journey. We are
Yeah.
at the moment in that kind of change management, and adoption phase. So just making sure that we are adopting it, because it's a really key module for the business. So again, we're doing it incrementally, we're doing it in smaller chunks, because we want to make sure actually we've implemented it now. Does it work for our team? So we
Yeah.
first started with our core team, and is there any bugs? Is there anything that isn't working before we start rolling it onto, a further team? So it's a bit, it's very delicate. We need to make sure that it's right. It doesn't have to be perfect. And I think we're always looking for perfection when we want to implement something. And that's not what we are looking for. We're
Yeah.
looking for something that's going to give us results. It's going to give us a positive outcome, positive feedback, for the business and the wider organization.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. And rolling it out incrementally in small steps. We've done a podcast on this exact thing, where we've worked with clients before that have gone big bang and have had to scale back, and we're firmly on the approach of softly, take it slow, make sure it
Yeah,
embeds, make sure that people understand the why. Why have we done it like this? Why is it here? um yeah, yes, there's nothing worse than just dropping something on
absolutely.
dropping some new tech on people and expecting it to work. Yeah,
No.
absolutely. um so obviously this feedback to us was taken on board. We also agreed with you. We felt like it was the right time. Our developers worked furiously hard at creating something that was going to work for you, and it is now part of what we deliver to many of our clients, which is wonderful, and we love working like this. But how was it for you? How was it collaborating with the Verto team, with the CX team, who then obviously would work with the developers to create these enhancements? How did that partnership work, and what is the impact that you think it's had, or that it's had?
Yeah, I think, really good question, because I think client relationship is really important. And I think what also helped is that we had implemented Verto prior to this resourcing module, um, because we had kind of built that rapport and built that relationship, and you understood, a little bit of our journey as well. So that was really key, because it isn't just about putting in a tool, it's actually about you understanding who we are as a company and some of our pain points, so that it can be right. And I think one of the things that was really appreciated, it's the support. I think that was really important from yourselves, um, because it's new to us as well, and having that kind of expertise support, you understanding the tool, understanding the capability, and merging and collaborating in that was really key. So the client, relationship is really important. I think that really helped to ease through that, implementation, and getting those requirements together and understanding, because we might have something in mind, but actually you might have a better way of doing things. So it's really about learning, from each other and
Yeah.
sharing knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. We do like working quite closely with our community, and it's a great way to work, with our clients sort of pushing us on as well. So yeah, I'm really glad it worked out, and it was a positive collaboration. That was wonderful. Um, So we're nicely on time, in fact, maybe even a bit ahead of time. So I'm just going on to my final question here, and we can dive into the Q&A afterwards. But I just wanted to delve further into that culture that you've got at Platform. It's one of the things we've really admired about Platform is the way that you embrace knowledge sharing, and you're quite active in the sector as a whole.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've mentioned feedback mechanisms a couple of times at all. So tell us a little bit about how I think it's really useful for the people on the call to understand from an organization that seems to be doing it right. How have you developed that people first culture? I know that you mentioned quite early on that in order to set the standards and drive this consistency, you put out some surveys to ask people, how do you want to work? How does this, is that where it started from, or is there has it always been like this?
Yeah, I mean, I will speak obviously from my time when I joined in 2023, but I think it is embedded in the culture, and having great leadership is really important. Tamara, enterprise director, has been a really great example of that. Just really pushing that collaboration, attending seminars and conferences and just engaging with various different organizations within the sector. And I think that's what's really nice about our sector. We're not a competitive industry. We are working for those social morals and values, really. So sharing that knowledge and experiences is really important, coming together and finding ways and how can we make our community better, how can we serve our customers better, because actually if one thing in the industry happens, it impacts all of us, and we saw it with Grenfell Tower. So we all get scrutinized, so coming together has been the best thing, and that's really been trickled down, and I think that's really helped to knowledge share and bring that collaboration and just having more conversations, even like this. I think it's really important because ultimately I think we all want the same thing. It might be in different ways, but we want the same outcome. So that's really been fostered in our culture. The surveys, we have regular surveys here. It's not just about the work, it's about the well-being. Do you enjoy being here at work? So, and when you start to see change, you feel heard. It's one thing to just put out a survey and you don't see any change or get any feedback. But when you start to see the changes, you feel heard and you feel valued and you want to do more. And that's really important.
Yeah, I think that's a really lovely take on it. It's one thing that we really love about working so closely with so many public sector organisations in the UK, and obviously housing associations sort of slightly bridge a bit of public private, don't they? It's not all the same, but you're firmly wedged within the mindset of a public sector organisation when it comes to knowledge sharing and and being, this is why we set up the Verto user group, the community of users that we bring together. They talk independently, our clients with each other, and it is fantastic to see that because they all want to boost each other. And a lot
Yeah.
of what you're talking about today is going to be really relevant for other sectors. So yeah, it's really great to see that happening internally for your organization as well. Okay, lovely. Well, we're a little bit ahead of time, but that's absolutely fine. We're going to move now on to the Q&A. So I'm going to bring in my colleague Craig for this bit, who does really well on live Q&As. So welcome, Craig. Let's just check the Q&A and see if we've had any questions in so far. Ah, yes. So we've got one for you, Janice, from John, who is asking, how do you measure engagement?
Yeah, so our leadership review the engagement scores. And I don't know if you saw in the beginning of the slides that I showed, you can kind of start to see the trend. So where they are dropping, where they're increasing, and also where There might be some neutrals as well. So those scores are measured, as the engagement comes out. And they are discussed, and actions are taken as well. So, there are owners and responsibilities to ensure that those actions are being done. So if the engagement scores are low, and they're increasing, we're able to see where it's increasing or where it's reducing, and where the actions need to be taken. So that's how we measure them.
Lovely. I hope that's answered your question, John. Thank you for that one.
If you don't mind, Laura, just to follow on that from that, Janice. Hi, both. Hi, everybody. In
Great.
terms of the approach, in terms of how you were measuring engagement, is there an open forum for people to come in and provide their comments on this? Is there a key point in the year where you sort of reach out and request for these sorts of comments?
Yeah, so for example, with our team, what we usually do is our director would bring the engagement scores in our meetings, and we would discuss them, and we would look at various different actions. So that gives us an opportunity to also give feedback, because obviously, the engagement surveys goes out widely, but that gives us that opportunity to give feedback and input, look at some actions that we can do. So yeah, it opens, I guess, that kind of open discussion forum to be able to input as well.
Mm. And I think what you mentioned as you was answering the question about the actioning of the feedback that you're getting, I think is really important. It's all well and good gathering that information, understanding where you're at from an engagement perspective, but then acting on it, and being proactive as well based on the information you received is really important.
Yeah, and one of the things as well that I really appreciate when we do have those discussions, is just knowing that, because it's not just questions that you tick, you've got where you can add comments, and just knowing that those comments are being read, because that's where you get the real value of, how people feel. Um, I think that really helps as well, because as you said, Craig, you can put a survey out and you don't even know whether it's going to be any change to that or anything like that. But as you saw in
Exactly.
the beginning, when one of the first thing that we did when trying to bring change to our PMO was send out the survey and action, the feedback that we got, and we started to see change from that.
Definitely.
Okay, fab. I have got one in here for Verto. So how do you approach client collaboration to ensure that the platform evolves in the ways that genuinely meet sector needs?
So I'll probably take that one. I think you might have heard sprinklings of it throughout the conversation. I think Janice has alluded to some bits. I think Laura has as well. I think the first thing to mention is that the system has always been driven based on sector needs and based on requirements from our client base, as per the example that Janice and Laura talked through. I think one of the important things around collaboration is regular touch points and avenues for engagement. So although you will have points in time where you will collaborate, communicate with clients that use the platform, having those ongoing channels for the clients to feed into, having, I think Laura mentioned it earlier, user groups where open conversations and forums can take place, allows us to really soak in all the information that we're getting in from across our client base. But then the second part, in terms of ensuring the platform evolves in ways that meet sector needs, is quite a difficult one, right? Because we've got many clients with many different requiremements, many different stages of their maturity and their growth as PMO teams, maybe without PMO, so on and so forth. And so, one of the difficult jobs that our client experience and development team have is trying to assess and prioritize all the feedback that we get to ascertain the best changes that we can make to really evolve the platform in ways that meets the organization's needs of those that use the system. So ensuring that the right channels are in place, ensuring that the conversations are flowing and happening on a regular basis, ensuring that things don't fall on deaf ears, right? And people are being heard and listened to, and that we take an active role in evaluating the feedback, the comments we're getting, and using our knowledge from our extensive experience alongside the continuous improvement and the conversation and inputs from our clients to make sure that our roadmap evolves based on on what we're seeing in the market. I mean, we was born from an organization who lacked some areas and some needs were not being met without a tool, and so we started exactly from that journey. And I think if you're not collaborating, if you're not actively engaging with clients, you're never going to genuinely meet those sector needs that was mentioned in that question there. So hopefully I've covered that off.
Brilliant. Thank you, Craig. So we've had another one for Janice. What role did training or coaching play in embedding the changes?
Is that from internally or just
Oh,
in
I don't know.
general?
It doesn't say. It just, yeah, I suppose let's take it as, internally for your teams, how much training and coaching did you have to provide, or did Verto provide? Maybe let's do it from internally
Yeah,
and from Verto to embed the changes that we were making.
Yeah, and how
yeah,
important would that be,
It's
Janice? How
processes as well,
important
isn't it?
would training and
Yeah.
coaching play in terms of ensuring that the changes you're making are actually being successfully embedded?
Yeah, because of
yeah,
course
really
we would
good
have
question.
provided training from the Verto point of view, but your processes would have needed some sort of embedding as
Yeah,
well, right?
absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, really good question. And I think it kind of ties in with that collaboration as well, because it was really good to know that we can lean on yourselves as well to aid that training, and just to make sure that we are trained well. It's that trainer trainee, and we're confident in when we are going to be delivering that training. And so it was really nice to have that confidence, and we can lean on you guys. Um, and in terms of, because Laura mentioned about process, that's really, really important. Because we had that process in place, we were confident in our processes. Having the tool was the support to our process. So we didn't implement the tool to drive our process, if that makes sense, firsthand. So we used various different trainings. We knew that people learn differently, whether it's just having short videos. So we started to have bite-sized videos, just 2 minutes, 3 minutes on just different specific areas, whether it's how to extract your highlight report, or how to add a risks. And we kept it small. We also had training modules. So that the training aspect and that kind of package, we made sure that it was accessible to every single learning style. And then in terms of embedding, again, it's having regular check-ins with our team members, just to make sure, are you okay with this, or do you know how to do this? And just regularly checking, really, and making sure that there is a window to continuously support. And we still, it's still part of our plan now. It's a continued action. So so having those two different angles, so the support from Verto, and also having various different ways with our training packs and modules, was really important.
Yeah, and I think that's key, isn't it? It's continuous,
Yeah,
like you said. Yeah,
yeah.
it never really stops. Yeah, and there's always change, isn't there? Change is a constant. So yeah.
Yeah, it never really stops. And also, even getting that feedback as well, it's part of that embedding. If something isn't working, it's okay to get that feedback, and if we need to change it, we'll change it. So having that kind of open mindset, because at the end of the day, it's our PMs that's going to be using it. It's our team members that's going to be using it mainly. So hearing their feedback and their perspective, that's really important. And I think that's why change management needs to be it needs to be embedded, or even spoken about from the beginning, not after implementation. And oftentimes we always forget about that change aspect. And so it takes longer to embed, you find more resistance. And sometimes it even reverts to going back to old ways, because of that change management piece wasn't really looked at.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Janice. Sorry, Laura, because
No, carry on.
oftentimes we can get pigeonholed into project delivery, project management, and successful delivery of outcomes and outputs, right? But change management is a vital part of ensuring that what you're delivering is a success in the short, medium, and long term. So I just wanted to echo that as a very, very valid point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, right. We've had another one from Pete. He says, if you had to pick one change, or this is for Janice, by the way, if you had to pick one change or decision that made the biggest difference in your transformation journey, what would it be?
Very good question. One change that made the biggest difference. Um, I would I
All of
would
it?
say technical change, or I think the culture. I think that the collaboration, because one of the issues that we had was a very siloed way of working. And maybe a lot of people face this in the organization. You just do what you need to do, and when you're in such a fast-paced environment, you just keep doing it. You don't have time to speak to people, you don't have time to engage with people. But I've seen a massive shift in that, and I think having a tool that is a centralized tool where we've got one version of the truth for our portfolio has made a massive difference. Before, if you remember in the beginning, I was saying, imagine having this desk with just paperwork everywhere, and everyone's asking you for really key information, and it takes you days because you have to get through everything. And now I can go in the tool and I can just extract the data, and that's made a massive difference, massive difference. So yeah.
Janice, as well, one other thing you mentioned earlier that resonated with me was around not overcomplicating things. I can't remember the exact term that you said, but simplicity. And I think that as well could have been one big decision point, because, I mean, Laura alluded to it, and we see it time and time again, where just because it's there, or because you've had a thought and a great idea, that you try to implement it all and it really becomes over engineered. And I think that point in platforms' minds where you decided to recognize that, I think has really sort of stood you in good stead for ensuring that you've got lean, manageable processes that actually make a difference. So I fully agree with your point. It just, when you was answering the question, I was thinking, do you know what? I think that is a very important thing that I think can definitely have a domino effect in terms of the successful delivery of everything else from an ongoing change perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it simple. And in one of my last slide, I don't know if you saw that I kind of put a picture of our old highlight report. And I kept it the old one because it isn't much different from our new one. It's just that we've embedded it in the tool. But our stakeholders were used to seeing the same information, so we didn't want to completely eradicate what they were used to seeing. And it's just optimizing it, or making it a little bit better or easier to extract. But again, it's keeping it simple, because when it comes to change, people are scared of change. People don't want to change because it's such an unknown environment. But if you keep it simple, you get much more better effectiveness. And that's just my motto right now. It's like, just keep it simple. And it doesn't mean that you can't dive into those complexities, but even within those complexities, break it down. And we've got the skills to do it. You've got the skills to interpret it in a simple way. They just don't know that it's complex because we just make it simple for them. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
really been helpful.
I completely agree, and I'm sorry to sort of smudge these together again, but it really does make me think about, there should be a fundamentals, shouldn't there? Because we took, again, this podcast that we did about talking about the why. It's all of those things, isn't it? It's keeping it simple, and it's explaining the why, and it's taking them on a journey, and it's incrementally implementing whether it be per tool or per department or something like that. But
Yeah.
the setup and the rollout and all of that, if all of those are in place, then you're just going to stand so much of a better chance of it being a success in the long run. But yeah, great to hear that this is working out. You just sound like you're doing it the right way, which is fantastic. I think we've got one more. Oh no, hang on. I say that we've got another one. So we've got a few more questions, and we have still got time. So I'll take another 2 or 3, and then go from there. But Angela asks, hello, she says, hello, thank you for the session. Thank you for joining, Angela. If projects are delivered in the business, do they have access to this tool? If projects are delivered in the business, do they have access to this tool, or is all change at enterprise level? Good question.
Yeah, good question. Hi, Angela. So we've So our project managers have access to the tool, and they can input in the tool, so they can update in the tool, so all of the highlight reports, etc. Everyone in the business has access to view projects in the tool. So there's view only access. So there's two different access that we have. So we've got the pro license and we've got the workspace license. And workspace license enables stakeholders to go in there to view the information that they need to view, but they don't necessarily, have access to edit or change anything. And how we operate is we do have some stakeholders who are leading on projects, but they might not necessarily be project managers. So what we do as PMO team is that we will sit with them through those checkpoint meetings, and we will add the information in the tool with them on the calls, that they can see what the tool looks like, they can see the state of their project, and they can be familiar, they can familiarize themselves with it. And again, that's been part of our rollout. We do have some people that are like, actually, I can go in and I can do my highlight report, for example, or I can go in and I can add my risk or issue, which they can do so as well. So I hope that answers your question. So it's a little bit of a mixture, but one of the key things is just making sure that we're giving everybody access to see the portfolio, to see what's in the tool.
It's a nice segue actually to a question that's just come in from Robert. He says, hi Janice, has the tool helped improve higher level decision making or governance for projects, programs in your organization, and if so, how?
Yeah, so in terms of improvement, I would say yes, it has. One of our major kind of core change program, which is our kind of major strategic initiatives, that's very much kind of driven in the tool in sense of information that's distributed. So that used to take us to kind of put that pack together, say maybe an hour or so. Now it probably takes 2 minutes. So you can see the improvement there. In terms of decision making, again, that kind of, the tool supports it. It doesn't necessarily decide in terms of priority of what happens or what project goes in. But what the tool has done is that it's giving us a bit of data to tell a story, to showcase where the risks are, where the issues are, to drive and support some of those decisions. But that's an ongoing discussion when it comes to prioritization, but the tool is just there to support, really.
I think you made a very good point there, Janice. It's an enabler, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've got very smart people in your organization. You've got the teams to be able to make effective decisions and to assist in that decision making. But a tool like Verto can be the enabler to help visualize that information, bring the right information to the surface at the right time to help more proactive and efficient decision making. So I think you're exactly right there in terms of how it supports that piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And which is why our resource module is really, really key, because that part is what we really need to start making the right decisions with the work and the volume of work or the delivery. So I think in terms of module and what's really important, I mean, everything is important in Verto, but that resource module, it's going to be really key for that.
Definitely, it's going to bring all of that resource to the surface, so you can quickly
Yeah.
see who's doing what and where the bottlenecks are, where the existing allocations are, where the space may be.
Yeah,
And I mean,
exactly.
we probably will see it, and all walks of life really, when you probably hear something like, oh, if we only knew that, if we only knew this, or if we only caught sight of that, that would have completely maybe changed the decision, right?
Yeah.
Maybe having visibility on resources will help you to understand whether you're going to accept the 10 projects that have come through into the pipeline, or whether you can only deliver 9 because Joe Bloggs is wrapped up, and so you haven't got the resource to actively deliver and maintain the extra project that you was looking at, right? And I think visualization of data is really key from a decision making perspective, because one small piece of data can completely change the narrative and change the decision that you make based on that data being visualized. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the trends that was consistent with our engagement scores, was just that team fatigue, just doing way too much. We are a team of 22, but as you saw the how large we are as an organization, we cannot do everything. We try to empower our stakeholders, to be able to lead on projects. But imagine, you're hearing all these complaints and just how people are feeling and that team fatigue. The resource module, that is showing that there is no capacity, but then you're still putting in 10 projects, then it will really show that actually there's something broken down, you're not being heard. And so that's just one example of how the data in Verto can start to inform better decision making.
Great example, Janice. Exactly, couldn't have put it better myself.
Okay, I think we're going to answer the final question now, and it's another one from John. Now, I think it's probably important to highlight both sides of the coin, and John's really brought this to life here. So he's asked, hi Janice, what has been the most challenging aspect of getting advocacy for using Verto as a tool? And I guess, just to add to that, how did you sort of overcome that?
Yeah, hi John, great question.
Sorry, Verto.
Yeah. I think you're always going to find some kind of resistance, isn't it? When you bring something, again, one of the things is you're now telling everyone you're going to see the work. One of the issues that we were seeing was that consistent red rag rating, and sometimes people don't want to rag their projects red because it might give a negative perspective when that isn't the case. Actually, if a project needs to go red, exactly. If a project needs to go red, the right thing to do, and a good PM would rag it red, right? And so I think some of those things was that, brought conversation and opened up those kind of conversations and resistance. But I think because we worked with the team quite closely, we looked at the tool, we procured the tool together, we scored it together. I think we carried each other as a team. And of course, when you implement a tool, you're going to get glitches, you're going to get, small things. And those things can really impact embedding the tool and that adoption, because, either people will blame the tool and not want to use it. But I think because we stayed very closely to that implementation and embedding, if there was anything that was wrong, we were very quick to act, and great responses from TMI as well, from Verto. So we're able to kind of nip those in the bud really quickly. And so that adoption for our team, again, we specifically just looked at our team, because I think if we went wider, I think we probably would have had a lot more work and more resistance. So I think benefits was really important, selling those benefits, and they started to see those benefits where it took you a really long time to put your highlight report together. You now have a much shorter time, more time to do other things. So when people started to see those benefits, I think that really helped to embed and adopt the tool better. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good. I know I said that was the last question. We have just had a
last question.
last question. We've got a few more minutes left, and then I'll wrap up. But we've got a follow-up question from Pete. He said, with the culture change, how easy was it to gain exec support from areas outside of the PMO with the same keep it simple mantra?
Yeah, I think one of the things that really did help us to get that exec support, and as I mentioned in the beginning, when Tamara, our director, started to engage with our executive leadership about what can we do to help the organization, that was really key. And launching that Microsoft form and getting that feedback, instantly they loved what we did because we had repeatable processes that were successful. And so they said, actually, we love it. We want an enterprise version of that. So we didn't come in and say, actually, I've got experience in what a PMO should be and look like. I'm just going to embed that and put that in. It's actually tell us what you need and let's see if we can do it. And we started very small, very simple. And then we was able to scale from there. So we did get that buy-in from quite early on. And I think maybe because we engaged, Tamara might be the best person to answer that, was prior to my time, but I think because we engaged with them, and that's really important. It's not just us that needs to feel that we need to be heard. It's everybody, isn't it, that needs to be heard. It doesn't matter what level you are in your career.
Yeah, amazing. I feel like we could talk all day. You'll have to join us for a podcast or something, Janice, because there's so much more to delve into. But we will have to We will have to wrap up now. First of all, thank you all for joining us today. It was a great conversation. We had a brilliant time, but I hope you've also found it very useful. Janice, thank you so much for joining us, to you and the team, and for giving us just such a candid view on your journey so far. It's been great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So before we sign off, I just want to share some quite exciting news. In the new year, we are going to be hosting an in-person dedicated housing event. So we're going to be, yes, bringing together those working in change management, PPM, across the housing sector to come and join us for this event. It will be an opportunity to continue this conversation and share more knowledge, just like the stuff we've been sharing today. And I believe Janice and her team will be contributing some more of their insights and experience at the event, which is going to be fantastic. We're also going to hopefully have some other speakers as well from across the sector. Now, it won't be sort of exclusive to housing, as the insights will be valuable across the sectors, but it's important to note that it will focus on the perspective from UK Housing Association's point of view. So yeah, if you'd like to be a part of that, please do get in touch. We'll also be reaching out far and wide, all of you definitely watching today, but others who couldn't join us as well once we've got firmer details in place. But yeah, finally, if today's discussion has sparked any ideas for how you or your organisation could raise your own standards, or if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what we do at Verto and how we can help you achieve your goals, please do get in touch. Well, our team would love to have a chat with you. But yeah, finally, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Janice.
Bye.